Time for world politics, and we'll see what's going on in the political landscape, both here in the United States and around the world, and all along those lines. Hurricane Melissa, live updates, extremely dangerous category form storm barrels across Jamaica after making landfall. At least 7 are reported dead. Hurricane Melissa has made landfall in Jamaica. Strong winds and flying debris as Hurricane Melissa makes that landfall. So you'll definitely be hearing about this storm as it impacts Jamaica. Half of U.S. states sue Trump administration over halting food stamps. So 25 states have sued the Trump administration over SNAP food stamp freeze during the shutdowns. As millions of Americans prepare to lose SNAP benefits, some states are moving to bridge the gap. State sues Trump administration to keep the SNAP benefits during the government shutdown. And Netanyahu orders a strike on Gaza as Israel says Hamas violated the ceasefire. And judge blasts Border Patrol boss Greg Bavino for violating excessive force order. So that is something that is coming out of the news as well. So definitely lots going on there. As I said, Israel has launched a strike on Gaza after Netanyahu ordered powerful attacks. New Israeli strikes on Gaza threaten the fragile ceasefire, and Israel strikes Gaza after it accuses Hamas of violating the ceasefire and staging hostage discovery. U.S.-Japan leaders sign a rare earth nuclear power deal ahead of the Trump G meeting. So Trump bonds with Japan's leader over baseball and U.S. beef. So Japan news leader tries to charm Trump with gold, golf, and a deal on rare minerals. Ford's enormous F-150 becomes unlikely part of Trump's effort to woo Trump. Part of Japan's efforts to woo Trump, I should say, and everything like that. Trump G meeting comes amid growing tensions over trade between the U.S. and China. So Xi Jinping is at his boldest and brashest, is what The Economist is reporting. And some folks are asking, how will Donald Trump fare this week? So as Trump G trade talks near, investors turn to history as a guide to figure out which way that will go. Man accused of assassinating Japan's ex-prime minister Shinzo Abe pleads guilty. So he's pleaded guilty to killing Shinzo Abe, the former prime minister of Japan. And definitely we'll see how this goes on as Japan's defendant admits to killing the ex-prime minister Abe in the first court hearing, according to media from that area. Hamas fakes unearthing partial remains of hostages whose body IDF recovered a couple of years ago. Israel says remains returned by Hamas are not new Gaza hostage body. So release of hostage bodies is threatening the Gaza ceasefire and deepens families' heartbreak. Israeli drones shows Hamas staging captive burial and discovery. Trapped and terrified, warnings as the Sudanese militia seized Darfur city. So El Fashar's fall to RSF paramilitary forces raises fears of mass killings. Sudan's military withdraws from El Fashir in Darfur, handing the city to the RSF. So mass killings reported in the Sudanese city seized by the paramilitary group. Paris prosecutors are deeply regrets disclosure of Louvre suspect arrest. The Louvre is invited a former thief for a podcast. He warned of a security breach. Police make arrest in Louvre robbery. Authorities are saying this was reported 2 days ago. And with the Louvre heist, hunt on for remaining thieves after suspect was arrested by the French police. Plane crashes while flying tourists to Kenya's Masai Mara, killing 11 people. So the Kenyan plane crash kills Hungarian and German tourists and local pilot. 11 killed in Kenya plane crash while en route to Masai Mara National Reserve. 11 dead after the tourist plane crashed during a flight to the wildlife safari. In the United States news, the judge is questioning Gregory Bofonio over immigration crackdown tactics. So George orders daily meetings with Border Patrol official Boveno on Chicago area and all along those lines. So Border Patrol chief in Chicago ordered to give judge daily updates. The judge blasted Border Patrol boss Greg Bovino for violating excessive force order. Airlines are feeding air traffic controllers as they miss their first full paychecks. Congress must act before FAA can pay the air traffic controllers, Duffy is saying. Air traffic controllers picket at Detroit Metro Airport amid government shutdown. Air traffic control staffing problems spiked over the weekend, raising concerns about growing disruption. Democratic states sued to force SNAP benefit payments during the government shutdown. Dozens of states have, as I reported earlier, are suing the Trump administration over food stamp funding during the shutdown. So this is definitely going to impact a lot of people. A motorcyclist is wanted in connection with a California deputy's killing, was stopped and everything like that. So motorcycle pursuit after deputy shooting in Rancho Cucamonga ends in a crash. Deputy is killed. Fleeing gunman deliberately knocked off motorcycle in 150-mile-per-hour chase by a second cop. And California suspect accused of shooting and killing that particular deputy, as I said, crashed the motorcycle during a highway pursuit. Trump formally appeals his New York hush money conviction. So Trump files a powerhouse appeal in politically charged Manhattan district attorney case. So Trump appeals felony conviction citing Supreme Court immunity. So Trump files a late night appeal to overturn his 34-count felony conviction. And Senate Democrats to force vote aimed at blocking Trump's tariffs on Brazil. And Johnson says he's spoken with Trump about the constrictions of the Constitution on a third term. And there's still some people that are wondering, well, Trump will try to run for president in 2028. Mike Johnson is dismissing Trump's third time's talks, but applauds the trolling. So there are some people, even in the New York Magazine, that are saying that Trump's third term talk might backfire. And House GOP concludes investigation into Biden's alleged mental decline. A GOP-led oversight committee says Biden pardons signed by AutoPen are void in final report. House report details Biden's decline, claiming he was impaired as president. House report reveals post-debate turmoil on Biden's team. Judge extends order barring the Trump administration from firing federal workers during the layoff. So Trump administration shutdown layoffs remain on hold following the court ruling. Judge extends the ban on Trump firing federal workers during the government shutdown. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. The beginning of a movement, snapshots from a Mamdani rally is what some folks are saying as they're looking even in the New York Times. And Hochul, the governor of New York, says the tax the rich chants at Mamdani rally didn't sway her. A Democratic socialist is posed to become New York mayor, and Democrats are nervous. Zohran Mamdani's proposal for New York City build off city's progressive foundation. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. U.S. military strikes 4 alleged drug boats in Eastern Pacific, killing 14. So Japan trip, boat strikes, and more. So U.S. had a strike on alleged drug boats in the Pacific and in a ramp-up of campaign against alleged drug trafficking. And South Korea, Trump's demands test Seoul's patience. Trump's cash demands continue to bedevil deal with the South Korea. And Trump sparked South Korean capital flight with a $350 billion demand. South Korean negotiators visit U.S. to resolve the sticking points in trade talks. And how NDAs keep AI data center details hidden from America. And mid-air fork attack forces international flights to divert to Boston. Indian national allegedly stabbing 2 teens with a fork on a flight. So a flight was diverted after passenger allegedly stabbed 2 teens with a metal fork. So that is something that was going on that plane and everything along those lines. I think you were allowed to have forks on a plane, but maybe some other people that are more experts than me can detail how the person got the fork on the plane and all along those lines. And as federal employees face worsening financial challenges, AFGE calls for a clean CR. So Democrats face moments of truth as shutdown coalition is fraying. AFGE, the largest federal workers union, calls for an end to shutdown, putting pressure on Democrats. The largest government union calls for a clean CR to end the shutdown. And I know Toby and others have been talking about a clean CR, whether we've got one or don't have one. And Trump puts allies on obscure boards set to decide White House ballroom's fate. So definitely some people are even asking what the voters are thinking about this whole ballroom and all along those lines, and how the East Wing destruction fallout may linger. And Trump administration shakes up ICE leadership across the country in a major overhaul. So Trump plans to install Border Patrol officials to lead a more aggressive migrant crackdown. And ICE is in the hot seat, according to Politico. So Trump administration will revamp ICE leadership in a quest to intensify deportations. And folks are even fact checking Trump, and they're saying that there was like 11 false claims that Trump made to the troops in Japan. And Senate rejects the latest government funding bill as Trump addressed those U.S. troops in Japan. So Trump delivered remarks aboard the USS Georgia Washington docked in Japan. Trump praises troops and tariffs aboard the U.S. carrier in Japan. And Albert Pike, Confederate statue torn down to a racial justice protest, has been reinstalled. So the Trump administration has reinstalled the Confederate general statues toppled during the 2020 riots. Trump administration reinstalls the Confederate statue in Washington. So the Confederate statue torn down during the 2020 protest is back up in D.C. In San Diego County, cities and rural towns would be joined together under Proposition 50. So California Republicans retreat as anti-Prop 50 campaign collapse. California is allowed to hit back, the Atlantic is saying, and GOP voters in Northern California brace for a loss of representation in a fight for the U.S. House. The premier of Ontario said the anti-tariff Reagan ad that blew up talks with Trump is actually, I think he was saying it was factual, and Donald Trump's trade power is vast, but self-defeating is what The Economist is reporting. So Doug Ford is saying why Ontario ran the Reagan ad, and Trump, I work with China, not Canada. So that's definitely something going on. Still some conflict going on with our neighbors to the north and all along those lines. Slow-moving storm dumps as much rain as a hurricane in parts of Central Florida. So that's definitely something going on. Storm drenches Central Florida, creating particularly dangerous situations. The water remains. Cleanup continues for the Lake County's historic flooding. Mount Torah aims to restore infrastructure damaged in the flash floods. And 3 Wright-Patt Air Force personnel were found dead, officials say. Details emerge about double murder suicide across 2 counties. A 9/11 call was released. And Huber Heights man kills wife, co-worker before driving wife's body to West Milton. So police are investigating the double murder suicide involving Wright-Patterson workers. Turning Point faces its first big test of its legacy in Arizona. A city council race in Arizona turns toxic over Charlie Kirk's legacy. Voters have one day to mail in ballots in the historic Mesa recall. So financial reports are filed in that recall election as well. Russia oil company Lukoil to sell international assets in response to Trump sanctions. So that's something going on as well, even it's got global and national repercussions. A federal judge in Tennessee warns Trump official over statement about Kilmore Abrego Garcia. Judge warns against Trump officials' troubling remarks about Kilmore Abrego Garcia, and a judge slammed Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem over troubling remarks about that particular individual. And they're saying, and even in Fox News, Abrego Garcia to remain in the U.S. for high-stakes vindictive prosecution hearing is what they were reporting. And a ticking clock, how states are preparing for last-minute Obamacare deal. And Katyal is to argue Supreme Court Trump tariff case after a coin toss. Will Trump tariffs surprise Supreme Court's major question test? And why are Cato trade scholars writing to the Supreme Court? So the strategic blunder could swing the Supreme Court tariff case. And Zohran Mamdani said the quiet part out loud about his Muslim identity. New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani blasts shocking remarks from J.D. Vance about his aunt, and Vance criticizes Mamdani's comments about Islamophobia after 9/11. So Zohran Mamdani faces pushback about his story about a family member's post 9/11. So definitely that's something that folks are paying attention to as well. And an Indiana governor calls a special session to redraw U.S. House maps as redistricting battles are taking place in various parts of the country. So Indiana governor calls special session to boost Republicans in Congress. Indiana Governor Mike Braun calls special session to consider new congressional map. Trump redistricting push hits roadblocks in Indiana and Kansas as Republican lawmakers are resisting. And a former cop charged with murdering Sonia Massey testifies his actions match what was going on. So jury deliberation starts in the trial of the Illinois deputy who killed Sonia Massey. Jury begins deliberating in the trial of the officer Sean Grayson in that particular case. And Mike Johnson hit with a new Republican dissent over shutdown strategy. So keeping the House absent, Johnson marginalizes Congress and himself, is what's being reported in the New York Times. And Speaker Mike Johnson struggles to put a positive spin on his do-nothing Congress. So Republicans are struggling to explain the shutdown of the House. Russians Berfus missiles. Trump calls Putin tests inappropriate. Putin brandishes a new nuclear-powered missile as he digs in over Russia's demands. So the Bervesnik nuclear missile tests are successful, Russia says, and Trump rebukes Putin for testing the new missiles, tells him to end the war. And Venezuela moves to cancel an energy agreement with Trinidad after U.S. warships were seen in that part of the country. So the state-of-the-art warships steaming for Venezuela to turn the tide in Trump's war on drugs. Venezuela government says it captured CIA-backed mercenaries plotting false flag attack. Venezuela condemned the military provocation by CIA and Trinidad and Tobago. Government shutdown live update as the Senate fails to advance a GOP funding bill for the 13th time. So it looks like that's not going to happen until later on in the week, if then. And if you think Trump's China deal is the end of the story, you haven't been paying attention. U.S. and China seek to strike a deal over rare earth, tariffs, and soybeans. So Trump's China deal may avert a crisis of his own making. And Ninth Circuit Court to decide by Tuesday on reviewing National Guard deployment in Portland. Trump administration says it overstated the number of federal agents in Portland. We deeply regret these errors. The Department of Justice walks back key evidence in defense of Trump's Portland's deployment. So Trump's attorneys deny Oregon's claim of false info in the National Guard case. New York City still going a lot with their election. So record early voting numbers in New York City show a shift in who is turning out to vote. So definitely Monday marks the third strong day of turnout in the mayoral election. And Democrats get aggressive on remapping congressional lines. So Democrat Abigail Spanberger backs Virginia legislators' redistricting push. Virginia Democrats are launching redistricting efforts as Republicans vow to fight. And new poll has Andrew Cuomo closing the gap with Zohran Mamdani in the New York City mayor's race. So it's the mayor's race tightened. Mamdani can win without a majority of the votes, despite New Yorkers disagreeing with progressive points, is what a poll says. So Cuomo is narrowing the gap with Mamdani in the latest poll out a week before Election Day. Trump is trying to subvert the California November 4th election results, their state attorney general says. The California Monitor Justice Department's election watchers next week, and definitely the Justice Department will monitor elections in California and New Jersey. Red states are preparing for an end to the Voting Rights Act. A Supreme Court case could help entrench Republican power. Supreme Court won't torch the Voting Rights Act, but this dated practice has to go, according to an opinion piece in the USA Today. So we'll see if it still goes on or what happens in that sense. And the Harvard Salient in Vote Hitler now has been suspended. So Harvard Salient editor says conservative student magazine will not obey suspension by the alumni board. And the Harvard board halts conservative student magazine over reprehensible content. So the Harvard Salient board of directors announced on Sunday that it could suspend the conservative student magazine operations after it published material the board deemed reprehensible, abusive, and demeaning. So that is something going on as well. So we'll see if this publication stands the test of time or doesn't stand the test of time as well. So that is what a lot of people are talking about in the sense of what's going on in the world, in the nation, and all along those lines. So lots going on, and a lot of people are paying attention to a number of these stories and how they are impacting them or not impacting them, as the case may be. So that's what's going on in the world of politics and in the world of politics today. I was going to see if any of my guests were going to join me, but it looks like they might be having things dealing with rain and other things along those lines. So I'm going to play a couple of commercials, and this might be one of those 30-minute world politics. But we're getting ready to play a couple of commercials, and then we'll be back maybe with a couple of other news items. But let's check out this ladies and their talks on what's going on with the drug trade.
Over 2 in 5 drug abusers were found to have first started their habit before they turned 18, and that's according to a survey conducted by the Institute of Mental Health, the first of its kind. Now, it involves more than 6,000 respondents. Let's take a look at some other findings. Well, more than half of the respondents cited cannabis as the first illicit drug consumed, and this is followed by what is commonly known as ecstasy. There was also a small number of people who took methamphetamines and heroin. The most frequently taken drug is cannabis. This is followed by ecstasy and methamphetamine, which we told you about earlier. That was taken by close to 20% of respondents. Around 1 in 10 cited heroin as their drug of choice.
We are very concerned that drug abuse starts at such a young age and at home, where young people should have parental supervision and be safe. Given the long-term impact of drug abuse, we need to do more to address this. We have increased efforts to educate the public, especially youth, on the harms of drugs and counter misinformation and proliferation of liberal drug views on foreign media and social media.
Now, we spoke to a former drug abuser. Let's hear what he says.
A snip here and a cut there. 34-year-old Jabez Toh is hard at work editing promotional videos, but his life today is very different from his youth.
I remember when at the age of 15, I met with a bunch of friends, which is part of a secret society. One day, I was introduced by a friend to taste some drugs. So out of curiosity, I took the drugs and tasted it.
And soon Jabez was craving his next hit and was willing to do anything to get it.
At the age of 16, I get caught of drug trafficking, which I don't even know the consequences at all. So to earn money, to satisfy my craving of drugs, because I need the money to buy drugs also. So I go and sell and earn some profit.
After multiple stints in and out of prison, Jabez was eventually able to get clean from drugs with the help of the halfway house where he's currently working. To help more youths whose stories are similar to Jabez's, efforts will be reinforced. At an annual Central Narcotics Bureau work plan seminar, preventive education, especially for young people, came under the spotlight.
The youth must be taught to recognize misinformation when they see it. Getting into even a soft drug, so-called soft drug, which is, say, cannabis is thought to be, can also be very harmful because it does permanent physical and mental damage to your health, and also it can act as a gateway drug, which will then allow people to graduate on to other more potent substances.
And as such, the event also included information on anti-drug advocacy and an exhibition on cannabis and its harmful effects.
Well, like Mr. Toh, of those who had taken drugs, around a fifth of them cited curiosity as a top reason. Others believed taking drugs might help them with problems they faced. Just over 10% took drugs under the influence of friends. But most surveys still found illicit drugs to be very harmful when consumed, especially compared with smoking or alcohol use. That's regardless of how often a drug is taken or the type of drug consumed.
All right. Well, I've got Rick with me here as well. So lots going on in the world. I just pulled up some of the news before you got here and everything like that. Okay. And of course, we've got other things going on. So what's happening in your world over there?
I just had the TV on while I was eating lunch, and Trump has blown up another 14 people in the Caribbean, supposed drug smugglers. You know, they pick some of them up alive. You know, they blow up a boat and everything gets blasted to pieces. But sometimes, you know, one of the people gets blown free of and lives, and they get picked up, and we don't get to see them. Well, there's been several people who've survived, and so if they're really drug smugglers, then haul them in front of the press and show us, prove it. You know, like show us their police records or whatever. And, you know, because we have no idea of what they're blowing up. They've blown up more than a dozen of these boats, you know.
And were those boats in the Caribbean? I thought that I read that they were in the Pacific, which would be closer to like Japan and stuff like that. So
no, they're in I believe they're in well, because Venezuela is on the Caribbean side of South America. No, they're in the Caribbean. They're like south of Cuba, of Panama, not Panama, of Jamaica, of all that. Yeah, they're in that area. And we don't know where they're going, whether they're coming to the U.S. They're probably not, because the distances, it's a lot closer to Cuba than it is to. We don't freaking know any of this stuff. And then Trump said, I guess, that every time he blows up a boat, he saves 25,000 American lives from overdosing on fentanyl. Except fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela. It comes from China via Mexico. I don't know that even 5% of the fentanyl that comes to the U.S. comes via Venezuela. It's bullshit. And plus, okay, we lose 100,000 Americans a year to opioid overdoses. It's not all fentanyl, it's heroin, it's other stuff. So Trump's statement that every time he blows up a boat, he saves 25,000 is all of it's nonsense and bullshit, and they offer no proof.
No proof, and I guess some of these Latin American countries do have a Pacific Ocean side of them and everything like that, because that's what the article was saying, was that those blasts had been in the Pacific. But yeah, I guess we do have.
Okay, I mean, yeah, you can come up either side of
Right.
of Baja. You come up and but
Come
but
on, the
I
Atlantic
mean,
side.
I don't know that most of the fentanyl, according to what we've been told, doesn't come by submarine or fast ship. Fentanyl is tiny. It's 100 times more powerful than heroin. So if you need this much heroin to make it worth your while, you need this much fentanyl. And this much fentanyl, you tape it up under, the wheel well of your vehicle. And then, to frickin' wrap it like, 10 times in plastic. So not even one molecule smells, if they've got dogs or whatever. And you just drive it over.
Well, Trump is apparently trying to get rid of one of our big talking points. And we love talking about talking points here and everything, but I know I brought it up, you brought it up, Jitovi's brought it up, the fact that Trump is a 34 count felony convictions, but apparently today he's filed a late night appeal to overturn his 34 count felony conviction, and apparently he's appealing his New York hush money conviction as well. So I guess he's trying to go from being a con, or what some people would say is a con, a convicted felon, to being a non-convicted felon and everything like that, because he's trying to have these things.
Well, he already appealed it once. I don't know where he's appealing it now.
It says that he's filing a powerhouse appeal in a politically charged Manhattan district attorney case. So I guess it's some sort of new appeal, and they're calling it a powerhouse appeal. That's what Fox is calling it. And ABC News is saying that he formally appealed his New York hush money and everything like that. So it sounds like it was a late night appeal to get Supreme Court immunity. And of course, he does have the Supreme Court on his side. So maybe he's going to get immunity. Because apparently Trump's late night appeal argues why his 34 count felony conviction should be thrown out. So his resurrected legal arguments to overturn the jury's verdict in a case that was, he's saying, fatally marred. So he's claiming that is all rigged and everything like that. So more than a year and a half after a 12-member jury found him guilty of falsifying business records as part of a scheme to unlawfully influence the 2016 presidential election, Donald Trump has formally called on a state appeals court to toss the verdict that made him the first ever criminally convicted president. So I guess he's trying to say that we can't say that anymore because it was a midnight filing, and attorneys for the president revived.
He has a record of failing in court, so.
And I don't know anything about this 6-person team of Sullivan and Cromwell, because apparently those are his attorneys, and they're saying that this case should never have seen the inside of a courtroom, let alone resulted in a conviction. So
yeah, he and his lawyers are not constrained by truth or accuracy. So
no.
I don't know. Let's see what else is going on. Well, we got Jamaica getting wiped out.
Yeah, Jamaica's getting hit real hard by that storm and everything like that, so that's not good. And,
so 185 mile per hour winds.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did you hear about the Democratic states? I guess California is one. North Carolina maybe. North Carolina is we're a Democratic state now, but they're suing Trump administration over food stamp funding during the
SNAP benefits. So, right. I mean, everybody should know by now that food stamps aren't called food stamps anymore. That's what we call them. That's our generation, but now they're called SNAP. and 42 million Americans get SNAP. Most of these people, I mean, a lot of them are kids. They don't work. Their job is going to school. But of the adults, most SNAP recipients work. Their jobs are just too shitty and low paying that they need help buying food. To qualify for SNAP, you can't have more than $3,000 in the bank in savings. Wow. So these are people who are living, paycheck to paycheck. They're working at Walmart for, I don't know, $11 an hour, and they just don't make enough money, and they need help buying food.
Right.
And that's 1 American in 8, if you do the math.
Oh, wow. That could be a serious impact and everything like that. And then who knows, some of these federal workers might wind up going off SNAP because the judge extended the ban on Trump firing federal workers during government shutdown, basically saying they can't be fired during this shutdown that's going on. So he extended the order barring the Trump administration from firing federal workers during this time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's a terrible, it's not even a silver lining. It's more like a lead lining to Trump being president and doing whatever he wants. The crappy lining is at least we get to see what happens when, I think under Nixon, they coined the term imperial presidency, which is just a fancy way of saying president is king, which we've been saying. And we really get to see under Trump what happens when a president has this much power and does whatever he wants. And so,
do you believe what David Walker said and everything? On his show yesterday, he said that, the Constitution is the Constitution and all of this is just talk, that he doesn't really want to go for it and everything. But even Johnson said he's spoken, meaning Mike Johnson, with Trump about the constrictions of the Constitution on a third term. And he's dismissing Trump's third term talk as a good example of trolling and everything like that. And I think David was kind of going that direction as well. So is this all just trolling for the president? Or does the president really think?
I don't know. Like, it's not just trolling because there's money involved. So in a couple different ways, Trump gets campaign contributions. Mm-hmm. I think, from his base, we'll give him $5 or $10 million a month for his campaign. And he's allowed to spend that however he wants. He can say it's for campaigning, but it goes into his pocket. And as long as he keeps talking about 2028, I'm sure the spigot isn't as strong between elections, but I'm sure he's still getting, I don't know, $1 million, $2, $3 million a month that he probably still sends out mailers. And as long as he talks about running in 2028, he can pick up a few more million that way. And also, he and his kids have at least half a dozen crypto schemes going on with, I don't know, $5-6 billion in play. And the deal is that crypto collapses fast. But if you try to sell it and turn it into real money, then people will panic and the value will drop like 95%. But so he has to keep people believing in the Trump enterprises, the crypto, and that he's continues to be a political force. Mm-hmm. And, if I were him and his kids, I would, I wouldn't try to sell it, but I'd try to, I assume he can trade it.
Yeah.
Like I'll give you, 150 million worth of this crypto, and you give me, that building in Tampa Bay or whatever. And, you can't, and I don't think that would register as a sale. I don't frickin' know. I don't know how crypto transactions are registered. Maybe you can trickle it out and sell, if you own $5 billion worth of stuff, maybe you can get rid of $500,000 a month without freaking people out. But the deal is that he and his people have to keep the juggling going on to keep his crypto values inflated long enough for him to pull out some real actual money.
Yep, they got to do that and everything along those lines. So we'll see what goes in that space. I'm still trying to figure out, because this is one of your things in your state, but apparently a new distillery is making vodka from California dates in what used to be a mortuary in Hollywood. And I know that even before he passed, one of our local funeral home directors was talking about doing an event center in a mortuary. I'm not sure how I would feel about either a wine being made in a former mortuary or having an event center in a mortuary.
Okay, so LA has a noir aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
Noir movies, they were made in the 40s, 50s. Sometimes people still make them, where, you know, they're mystery movies where things generally turn out very badly for the hero of the movie.
Right.
And so people like the noir stuff. There's a cemetery, famous cemetery called Hollywood Memorial Cemetery, Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and they show movies there. And in the summer and even now, hundreds of people gather on the lawn and they project a macabre movie on the side of a building. Everybody has a good time. They bring picnics and they're sitting on, graves. LA has the Museum of Death, which is another, creepy frickin' museum. So yeah, okay, making dates in a mortuary is right in line with LA.
Yeah, so making wine. They're using the dates and everything, or even.
And that's the nature of LA. Is the sun shines every day,
right,
but people are up to no good every day. So on the surface, things look nice, but
they look nice. But y'all always have these lovely chases. Apparently, y'all had one earlier today in San Bernardino County, and of course, I remember the famous one with O.J. Simpson and everything like that. So y'all do have these lovely chases that make for good news reports.
Well, the greatest thing you can have happen is, sometimes the chases go on for an hour or more,
right?
And sometimes you'll look at the TV and they're heading on, and you go, that's my neighborhood. And
you go there,
and then you go, wait a second, they're like 2 blocks away, and then you hear the helicopters, and then if you're lucky, you go to your window, and the chase comes right by you while you're watching it on the news, and that's kind of like winning the lottery.
It's like winning the lottery. We've been talking about this for a while on the news, but another thing that's been coming up is international student arrivals have taken a dive during Trump administration. So I think we predicted that was going to happen, and it looks like that's what's happening. So they're saying that they're taking a dive because some folks are from countries like, I think even Sharif has said this, like from Bangladesh and China and Japan, they're going like, I don't want to go there. Those people don't like us, so we're not going to go there. So
that's right. That's freaking right. Vegas is down 13%. LA is down. I mean, when LA, like, we live like a mile and a half from Universal City, which has the theme park. It's got City Walk, which is a giant mall attached next to the theme park. And the deal is, when people come, and also Los Angeles, California gets a huge amount of Asian tourism because we are the closest part of America to Asia, if you don't count Alaska, which you shouldn't count because Alaska is not that entertaining. So Asian people, when you come to and Nick can confirm, when you go to another country as a tourist, you don't take the money seriously. Right. You don't really do the conversion. Somebody tells you something costs, X amount of euros, and you don't usually do the math. And well, how much is that in dollars? You just hand over the euros. And
just hand over the euros and everything.
Really quickly. But hold on, when Asian people come to America, when they come to Universal City, they spend money like water because they don't respect the dollar. They just and anyway, we're chasing away all those delicious, beautiful tourist dollars because we're being pricks to the rest of the world. And
speaking of that and everything along those lines, and we still got a few more minutes to go, about 20 minutes, but just really quickly along those lines, I was just wondering for both of you, because I know you've got a daughter, Rick. I know you've got a son. Is it just one kid, Nick, or do you have multiple kids? I can't remember, and everything like that.
Two.
Dos,
por favor.
Two sons, or two sons, or a son and a daughter?
2 sons, yes.
2 sons. Well, I just saw that it's not too late for me because even though I'm 63 and have no kids, I do have my two nephews and everything like that. But it's not too late because apparently 70-year-old Kelsey Grammer just had a kid at 70. So apparently it's not too late if that is to happen or anything like that.
Does he have a new wife? He's gone through quite a few wives.
Yeah,
He had his eighth child with his fourth wife. So I think this is his fourth wife and his eighth child. But he just fathered a child at the age of 7.
Yeah, more power to him. All I can say, he's 70 years old.
Mick Jagger, who still looks, Mick Jagger's like exercises every day. And the 60 Minutes on Sunday just ran a thing about how if you're at 50 or older, you need to be exercising every day.
The longevity. I was talking to Nick about that yesterday.
Are we going to have a longevity show on, Mark?
We're trying to work on that.
So, but Mick Jagger, who's got to be at least 83, his dad was a PE teacher. So Mick Jagger grew up learning the value of exercise. And if you've ever seen him at a or footage of him performing, he's in really good shape.
He's in good shape.
He fathered a kid, I think, at the age of 72. His wife is like 40 something maybe. And he's still.
Mick Jagger is 82. His they say he enjoyed a rare night recently, like 9 days ago, with his fiance Melanie Hamrick, who's 38. So his fiance is 38.
Right. So he's I'm sure they probably have sex. I don't know if they have sex with the lights out or not, because your skin kind of gets really floppy as you get older, and I don't know if that looks. Maybe
Mick Jagger, like it or not, he's old.
He's old, but he's still in good shape.
He's 82 years old and everything, but his former London home just sold. You'll love this, Nick. His former London home sold for $7.3 million to a Rolling Stone fan. So some fan of the Rolling Stone wanted to pay $7.3 million to get Mick Jagger's former London home, so they will be able to live in that house and say that they were living in the same house as Mick Jagger lived in.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say is good for him. See, what I'm looking at is that big 7.0 is sitting in front of me, so I'm going like, wait a minute.
So, Nick, you always say that I've got a huge IQ, but I never talk about it. But let me talk about it for a second.
Okay, go ahead, talk about your huge IQ.
IQ intelligence has two factors: fluid and crystallized.
Okay,
and that's a fancy way of saying that when you're young, you have raw brain power. That's what you need to be a chess champion. Correct. But as you age, your brain gets older, and you trade raw brain power for wisdom because you've learned a few things. So a guy like Mick Jagger, 82 years old, Mick Jagger, before he was a rock star, he went to the London School of Economics. So he was a smart guy.
Yeah,
Remains a smart guy, and now he has 65 years of being a rock star. I'm sure, even though his skin is wrinkly as hell, that sitting around with him and just having him talk to you about the world would be fantastic.
I think that is a great idea. Mark, why don't you invite this Mick Jagger guy onto our show?
Either that, or maybe we'll invite his fiance, who was a ballet dancer, this 38-year-old that apparently is.
Okay. I'd like to bring her on the show. She'd probably be somebody interesting to talk to.
Well, speaking of interesting, you've brought us something in one of our emails back and forth. So, tell us about these landing pages that we're going to have, and how? The thing is, I'm working with Azar, Salman Azar, who runs the show VC Masters. He has a person that we're working with to redo the web page for Pod TV. So we'll have all of our shows on landing pages, so they can go to the web page and they can see our shows. Or they can see this one, which is live. By the way, I was watching this. You're running something before, but I watch Pod TV live all the time on my cell phone. It's pretty easy to get to. And then, and by the way, you had a big attendance with Dave Walker earlier this week. Mm-hmm. I was just checking the demographics on. You're up like 3 times more, 300% on LinkedIn. But anyway, so the thing is, the whole idea is to redo the website so that we can, they can go in, they can see Pod TV Live, which is this, but also if they want to see, let's say, Naked at Night,
It has its own landing page, and they can watch all the Naked at Night
That's
shows.
awesome. That's good.
You know what I mean?
Each show will have its own landing page that they could watch individually.
Yeah, so that's the reason I need to know who all the shows are, Mark, and you need to meet the guy who's going to be doing the website. Of course, Kim goes, hey, we should do it. And I told Kim, wait a minute. I am not a computer guy. I've tried to explain this to her. If she says we, it means her, because I don't do computer work. I just don't do it. I missed that age because when I was leaving university, they were bringing in monitors. I said, what the heck is this? A monitor? And we don't have to send punch cards anymore? No. So, the thing is, I just didn't learn. I didn't grow up in computers. So I'd rather hire people. I got a lot of people working for me. I'd rather hire people.
I'm just trying to make sure that I understand. So what's the target date that we're looking at and everything? And is
I'm hoping we have the new website by January of 2026. I'm pretty sure we'll meet that target. And I want to increase our distribution. I just went over this with Kim. There's a lot of, apparently StreamYard limits you to 8. And so does Restream. Okay, so when we fill all the buttons and we go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, in other words, there's the usual suspects, Mark.
Right.
Okay, the only way we can increase that, we have to add another service. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. So we get another 8, and I have 30 places we can stream to. A lot of them we don't stream to because it's too difficult. So I'm going to work with Computer Guide so we can get on, not 30, but I want to go to 16 places. I'll give you some places we don't stream to. We don't stream to Substack. Well, with Restream, we could. We don't stream to Kick. With Restream, we could. We don't stream to TikTok. Restream, you can. You see what I mean? So I want to add, by the first of the year, 16 more distribution points that we can go to. And they have some interesting places like Naver TV, which these are TV stations that are not in the United States. A couple more in Chinese and Japanese, so I can't even pronounce them. And they also have Daily Motion. They have something that a lot of people, young people want to use. They want to use Telegram. See, we don't broadcast to Telegram. So
Telegram is like WhatsApp. Telegram is like WhatsApp.
All right, so we're trying to, on Naked at Night, we've revamped the show. And the last 3 sets of shows, we've added a bikini girl, which is legit because Lance needs somebody to draw. Normally,
she's good looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
So
they're both good looking.
Like I do gotta, she runs about $150 per set of shows. Are you guys able to defray any of those bikini girl costs?
I'm not sure how yet. Let's put it that way, because the thing is, what I'm looking to do is, okay, how are we going to collect income, which is another whole story. Now, right now, we need to up our website so that I can attract some larger shows that have more distributions into our network, so we're working on that. But I did notice when you did do that, you had a pop upwards 2 or 3 times, where you had more viewers.
Around because apparently we had somebody who looked at our demographics in detail and said we got a huge bump, but then the people don't stick around because
okay, right. No, you're right. There is a problem with that. Now, I did talk to the web developer that what we're going to do is, of course, do like everybody does, capture their email addresses so we can email them.
How are you going to capture the email addresses of the people that are coming to watch the shows?
That's not, again, I'm not an IT guy. That's the reason you hire IT people, Mark, for them to do that type of work. Everybody, every time somebody says, hey, you can do it. No, Nick doesn't do anything.
Well, let me ask you a thing. So we've been debating. We think, now, so normally in an art class, you wouldn't have somebody in a bikini as the model. They would be at the very least topless because that's how you draw in an art class. And we've been debating, can we get away with having boobs on YouTube? But I should run it.
Probably not. Wait, I shouldn't say probably, definitely. By the way, I'm in Facebook jail till the 21st. I don't know what I did wrong, but they threw me in Facebook jail. So, but anyway, let's go look at YouTube.
If we were so official in art class, that authentic, that we had boobs. Rick, it's a maybe. And the reason I say that is they have some content's risque and they have this little thing, you have to be 18 to enter or something that. So the answer is that you might be able to do that.
but I agree with you that when you're doing artwork, you're actually painting nudes. Really, I mean, a lot
Now,
of.
I've seen people get away with all sorts of stuff.
Well, let me tell you this: your ratings would probably go off the charts.
Yeah, they're like I've seen insane.
There's no doubt the ratings would go off
I've seen people. I've seen people put on bikini waxing video, which is just an excuse to show that. But they say it's educational. But there's not much to learn about bikini waxing. You put wax on, you pull it off.
Well, YouTube, you might be able to get away with that, but with LinkedIn and some of the other distributions, probably not. LinkedIn and Facebook, I haven't seen anything like that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, they would definitely get you in jail on Facebook.
You're gonna get slapped
LinkedIn
on there.
as well and everything like that. So we'd probably be facing Facebook.
Yeah, I would limit the stream to like YouTube. YouTube would probably take it, but
YouTube and probably even Twitch would probably take it, and maybe even TikTok.
Yeah. See, you'd have to go check which ones would take it, but YouTube, I think, would. And
and if I'm understanding you right, Nick, is each of the shows right now we've got 3 or 4 shows, including the timeshares, that have their own and Sasha's the chess show have their own kind of like I think we call it on demand and everything like that. So
right.
every show would be an on demand show. So each show would be
basically that would be it. In other words, where every show would be on demand, you can go take a look at the prior shows. It's going to require some work. That's the reason I said by January we should be able to complete that project.
How many are we talking about? Every prior show? Because like Rick has done like probably about 20 or 30. Or are you talking about?
Well, I talked to the web guy about that. Are we going to go perspective or retro? Because he may say, "Hey, look, it's best to do perspective as they come in, put them on, and then do a certain amount. Maybe the last 10 shows be historical, and then on a going forward basis, start bringing them on so that when people go to the network, they can see the current shows and also past shows. So everybody has a landing page. It requires some work. Yeah.
Let me promote Sunday's set of shows. So we're going to have Cassidy back. Cassidy was on a month ago. Cassidy is a very pretty young woman. She's going to be wearing swimwear. Lance will be drawing her. And Cassidy is an anarchist, which is an interesting perspective because she calls bullshit on both of us. Like, because she thinks we're all part of the same uniparty.
See, Rick, this is one reason.
Is Cassidy part of Antifa?
No, I mean, there's no Antifa. Antifa, I keep saying it's an adjective. It's like saying you're red-haired. There's not.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason we need to capture email addresses when you have an announcement like that, we need to send it out to all the people that are watching Pod TV. And in 2024, we did have 2.4 million viewers, but we captured no emails. And I'm sitting there going like, we got to capture those because then you can send them out to the 2.4 million people.
We do that even with the Cultural Arts Center that I work at. We send out emails and they do it with some of the events like Kwanzaa and some of the other events. So yes, if you capture the emails, then you can send out a email blast saying that
send an email blast out to people that opt in, because they have to opt in. And so, like I said, I'm working with the IT developers on that. So we're able to get what I want is a bigger reach, which I can do, although they don't make it easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. That's why I like it. So it's going to be a little hard to do that. And then also not just a bigger reach. I also want to increase the quality of the programs. So I think TJ Walker's program is quality, but I'm also talking to a friend of mine who has 548,000 subscribers on YouTube. He's an attorney I've worked with for years. And I thought, we need to up our game so I can bring those people over to the network. And it's something for me. I can do this between now and the end of the year because I'm past my pension season. I have work to do, but I'm not getting slaughtered with work.
One of the things that you did in that hold on a second. One of the things you did in that email that we probably could do with other shows is mention some of the stars, because I know for a fact that like you can mention the fact that Rick Rosner, because you didn't mention that, is former Jimmy Kimmel writer, but also Lance, Lance. What's Lance?
Oh yeah, I don't have Lance in the celebrity
last name.
Yeah, you're right.
But, but his co-partner is the Pink Panthers
Yeah.
founder's
Yeah, so
son.
Lance has a few Hollywoods. I mean, Lance remembers when he was 2 years old, he was sitting on David Niven's lap, being driven around because David Niven let 2-year-old Lance pretend to drive, and they were driving around a freaking studio lot. Lance met Cary Grant when he was all these people. But in terms of making the shows better, it takes more organization than we have. Jimmy Kimmel, every once in a while.
But hold on a second.
Hold on, wait. Let me finish my point. When he took his show on the road, he takes it to Brooklyn once a year because he's from Brooklyn. And he said that he flew, his staff was 264 people. Wow. So to make a show that is that slick and that entertaining takes a huge number of people. When we do Naked at Night, we have 5 people. We don't have anybody who's sitting there with a clipboard pointing at people. Now you go. Okay, you're done. Now you go. We don't have any scheduling or anything.
But even though you don't have any scheduling, you do have some people, because even your Troubadour has some credits and everything like that, because I've gotten emails from him. So you got, and even how many, because not Chastity, but the other young lady whose name begins with a C too. I think she's got like some massive amount of followers on YouTube because she's part of a band and everything like that.
Yeah. So and we have no way, like Nick is saying, of getting the word out.
Right. Yeah. Right. Even we advertise her, because I think that I saw that she had at least I can go back and look again, but I think it was like at least a couple of K that she has as followers, because that band apparently is somewhat popular, the band that she's part of.
And we are doing podcasts. It's in the name of the network, Pod TV, but somehow we're not working like pod. Like I keep talking about this Alex lady who does the show. Alex Cooper does the show Call Her Daddy.
Right.
That woman went from, she started off by talking about sex, and she got a following of 10, 20, 100,000 people. Then COVID hit, and she started talking about her feelings, and people liked that because everybody was sad during COVID, and she got millions. And then eventually she surpassed Joe Rogan. And I don't know how we get on that podcast ramp.
Correct. Right. Yeah. Well, that's the reason I hire people to do that for me rather than me try to figure that one out. Okay. Because there's people that are experts at that, and I'm not one of them. So what we'll do, that's what we're looking to do, is to do a J curve upwards once we get all of our ducks in a row. And like I said, a friend of mine, he has 548,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel already. I'm like, whoa, we aren't even close to that number. So we just need to put some.
What is your friend doing?
His name's Mark Kohler. You can look it up. He has Mark spelled with a K, Kohler. He's an attorney out of Cedar City, Utah, and I've worked with him and his friend Matt Sorensen for years.
Yeah, Lance and I have been yelling at each other.
Was it like a legal show, Nick?
Yeah, he runs a lot. He runs a lot of legal shows and clips and stuff like that. It would fit into our network, so I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, Lance and I have been doing our shtick for 8-9 years. We have 5,000 followers, 1% of your friends. So in 800 years we'll catch up, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Pod TV, we once had like 10,000 subscribers, but then we got wiped out by YouTube, and we had to start all over again. And also, we had the same thing on Facebook. We got wiped out a couple times, and all I have to do is say, "Hey, you violated some of our terms of service," and they wipe you out. So
you can have a hacker. I told you they wiped out all those lovely people that I had on LinkedIn, which is why we depend on your LinkedIn, because that happened some time back and everything like that.
And I have to go to another show because we're doing.
That's okay. And I'm getting ready to do another show as well, because it's time for Mama Noni and the other show. So I know we got.
All right.
Just
see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
No problem. Ooh, so let's get ready to get on out of here.